Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend and all that shite. Full disclosure, I haven't had a chance yet to watch Benavidez Morel all the way through. I've watched brief highlights, so I'm not going to talk about that in this video. It's been covered by many other people. What I do want to talk about is last week there was the face-to-face for Beterbiev Bivol. It was a sit-down with Bunty. Got a lot of Bunts. Steve Bunce. The thing I like about Steve Bunce is when he gets a bit more animated, he goes up sort of 30 octaves, doesn't he? Which is brilliant. So I love Steve Bunce. So it was a face-off with Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev, tomato and all that. First off, that fight, their first fight was fight of the year for me personally, because it was just a display of the art at the very highest tier, and it was wonderful, an honour almost to be able to watch that as it happened. And before that fight, I picked Beterbiev, and I picked him quite strongly, as far as I remember. But at the final bell, before they read out the decision, I thought that Bivol would sneak it. And I thought that because when they punched with each other and when they exchanged, Bivol looked to me the better fighter. He was faster, he was sharper, he was more accurate, and sort of landed with more volume when they chose to exchange and when they chose to punch with each other. And I thought for a lot of time he boxed wonderfully on the back foot and took a lot on the arms and gloves. And it goes down to that whole thing of interpretation, subjectivity of scoring, what you like. Do you like the walk forward aggressor, or do you like the sort of the box puncher? So I didn't have any complaints with the result, but I thought on the night Bivol nicked it. Now in this sit down, there's a really not an odd juxtaposition, but there is a juxtaposition because we look at Beterbiev and we look at Beterbiev and we have this opinion of Beterbiev that he's this stone-faced, cold-blooded killer, which he is in the ring. But when you hear him, when they're sat down, it's very much reversed because Bivol is the one that's very sullen, very stone-faced, very there's not a lot of expression shown. Where on the other hand, with Beterbiev, he's very softly spoken, he smiles a lot, he laughs a lot. So when we talk about this stone-faced killer, he doesn't present that at all when he's sat down and when he's talking, when he's in conversation, press conferences, interviews and stuff like that. He's a very happy, seemingly very happy, friendly guy. Like I said, smiling, joking, having a little laugh, very softly spoken. And Bivol is very serious, very businesslike, very poker face. So it's quite interesting. And Beterbiev said something in that sit down with Bunty. And I forget what the question was, but he said he would have preferred 15 rounds. And he would have preferred 15 rounds because, in his own words, he says, I am not a good boxer. Obviously, he's a fucking fantastic boxer, but, you don't win those sort of honours at amateur level and world level without being a good boxer. So, but compared to the very highest tier of boxers, he is not up there. Kind of an admittance that he's not the pure boxer that Bivol is. And I thought it was a very interesting comment, and I thought that comment, even though very short, actually said a lot. And when he said, I would prefer 15 rounds because I'm not a good boxer, what he's saying is I prefer 15 rounds because another 3 rounds would give me a chance to catch up with Bivol, or give me a chance that with the extended rounds, Bivol would slow down, his feet would slow down, his hands would slow down, and my constant pressure would now start to tell as Bivol's tank started to lessen and start to empty, and he slowed down. And to me, it was also an admission of, now, if you're more than a one-dimensional fighter, it means that when plan A doesn't work, you can go to plan B, and when plan B doesn't work, you can think on the spot and formulate a plan C. So it kind of said to me that it was almost an admittance that Beterbiev knows that he doesn't really have another element to his game, really, and that he would prefer the extra 3 rounds because the element that he has got, almost the one trick that he has got, which is his relentless walk forward pressure, would start to tell in the extended difference. Because by saying that, you're sort of saying, well, if I had a plan B, I'd maybe leave plan A and revert to plan B and see if that had more success in the 12-round distance. So I just thought that was a really telling and interesting comment, that essentially he's saying I would prefer 3 more rounds because the angle of attack that I have will be more telling over a 15-round difference than a 12-round distance. So yeah, I thought that said a lot. Bivol was he said that from an early age, his father and his coaches were never happy with his performance. So essentially, he's never happy with his performance, which is a good thing. You should always strive to be better. And I don't think he was, ultimately happy with his performance because he lost and can do things better. Now, because of the first fight and because of the way that Bivol would box on the back foot, use lateral movement behind a really good jab, good volume, and the fact that when he did stand and trade and punch with Beterbiev, I thought he was better. He got off his shots better. They were more accurate. They were faster, and he landed more volume. So I think for me, there is a lot more room for Bivol to add more variety to what he does and pose more problems than what he did in the first fight, although I think he posed a lot of problems for Beterbiev in the first fight. So although this is not a prediction, I'm going to tell you I fancy anyway. So I fancy Bivol. I really fancy Bivol because I think Bivol has just got more in the repertoire. He's got more room to alter his approach. And essentially, that will give him the victory because I thought it was close the first time. I thought Bivol nicked it. On the first watch in the moment, I thought Bivol had nicked it. But I just think Bivol's got more of a repertoire. I think he's got more tools in his arsenal. And Beterbiev's tools that he have got are undeniable. I've made videos on Beterbiev before. You know how high I rate Beterbiev. And I'm a massive fan of both these guys. I just think Bivol's got more. And I think you can look at the first fight and look at what he did and think, I could have won rounds more clearly by using the variety I've got more often. So yeah, it's a really good sit down. It's not very long, it's very short, so go give it a watch. Interesting stuff. Also at the weekend was Adam Azim. I forget the fella's name, former world champion that he boxed. There's an old adage in boxing that's very true, and it's that punches are born, not made, and that's very true. But you can balance that with speed, accuracy, and timing. And Adam Azim's got all those in buckets. There are still shortcomings in his game. There are still areas that are kind of not as strong as there could be. One of the major assets and one of the major pluses for Adam Azim, he's got Shane McGuigan in his corner, and Shane McGuigan's a fantastic trainer. I've always rated Shane. So that is a wonderful thing to fall back on, that you have that in your corner to go back to after every round. But there are still things to me now. He got deducted points for low blows in this. And I want to touch on that a little bit. Now, early on, he got warned for a couple of low blows, and there was at least one that for me that clearly wasn't a low blow. But then going forward, he did start to he landed sort of 2 or 3 low blows and got points deducted. And I have no problem with the points deducted for that. But one of the problems I kind of see with Adam Azim, and I've spoke about it before, is that for me, and he's done it in this fight a few times and he gets caught, he does hang his chin over the front foot a little bit too much for my liking. And what that does is, when he's fairly tall for the weight, and when you're of that body type and you have that style, when you hang your chin over your front foot a lot, it will create a wider stance. Because normally you would a boxing stance would be so, and you would kind of draw a line from your head all the way down, and that line would fall somewhere in between both feet, closer to the middle, kind of better, really. But when you put your chin over your front foot a lot, it kind of automatically widens your stance because your weight is now over the front foot or over the front leg, and your chin is over the front foot. Your back foot is further back to counterbalance the weight that's over the front foot and to keep you upright, essentially. And what he was doing a lot of times and why he landed a lot of these low blows was because when you bring your chin over your front foot, you're coming down. And then because that causes you to almost widen your stance to be solid, that brings you down as well. So you've come down even lower. Now, what he was doing a lot of times, he was throwing hooks to the body, or he was sort of throwing hooks, he would come to the side almost like Ricky Hatton. He would step around and throw the hook. And he was throwing a lot of them kind of flat, and he was throwing them long. And then when he sort of tried to almost bring them up to the body, he was throwing them long almost, but his lead foot was inside the other guy's lead foot, which meant essentially he's almost on the inside. And you're going to end up throwing low. You've brought yourself down low as it is. And even against a shorter guy, you cannot throw those punches long and flat, because the chances are you're going to hit low. You have to throw them. If you throw them shots and you bring them up and you're throwing them long, the arc of the trajectory takes longer for that punch to come up. Whereas if you throw that punch short and up, the trajectory takes a lot less time and a lot less distance before it becomes high. So when you're throwing the punches flat or even bringing them up but throwing them long and you're on the inside, chances are they're going to be low. You really have to shorten those punches up and just throw them up. Throw them to the upper inner ribs, the floating ribs, or the heart. Aim for that. And by the time that punch lands, if you throw it short, it's going to come high. It's going to hit them, but it's going to land on your opponent a lot higher. And I think for me, that was where he was kind of getting caught out and landing those low blows. But I'm a massive fan of Adam Azim. I really like him. I like the way he talks. I think he's obviously from a really good family, a really good stock, had a good upbringing. I think he's a good lad. I really enjoy his journey. I think he can do really well. He is not as complete as Dalton Smith yet. That's obvious, but that's fine because there's a lot of time with Adam Azim. And I know he won that European title and got a lot of flack because he won the European title, then gave it up to escape fighting Dalton Smith. But listen, in boxing, you chart a course. And at the end of the day, when all's said and done, it's going to say that he won that European title at that age and he got paid for it. So you chart a course and you do what's best for you financially and see it sort of for your career and the accolades. So I have no problem with that. Like there's far worse things than that going on in boxing, so I don't have a problem. Like I said, he's not as complete as Dalton Smith yet, so I would pick Dalton Smith. You know, not as widely as say G-Man thinks Dalton Smith is a larger gulf. I don't think the gulf is that wide. I don't think, for me, Adam Azim is. I don't think Dalton Smith is the massive favourite that G makes him out, you know. But that's fine. I think that fight in reality is probably a little bit closer than G makes it. But a shout out G-Man, of course, the OG. But yeah, but essentially I think it's enjoy Adam Azim's ride, and he's far from finished, but he's got a great team behind him. And he's a good lad, so I continue to enjoy Adam Azim's journey. And he beat that guy up at the end of the day. And listen, if you're winning fights in the style in which he's winning them, who's to criticise? I like Adam Azim. He's doing everything right so far for me, and I don't mind the fact that he won a European title and then swerved Dalton Smith. This game, professional boxing, is all about timing. It's all about timing and charting the correct course. And I've got no problems with him doing that. Like I said, I like Adam Azim, like Dalton Smith. Dalton Smith is class. But yeah, that was it. I'll see you all soon.